Good afternoon, everybody. Happy Hump Day. Glad you can join me. Thank you for joining me live today for this second of this week's lunchtime live broadcasts. I may actually have to skip again tomorrow as I have a coaching session booked for 1 p.m. and I'll probably want to do some preparation before that. So just keep an eye out for the note. Reminder note that I try to put out every day, so specifically when I am going to miss a session, live broadcast, I will put out a note to just kind of let people know that I won't be going live. So anyway, thank you for joining me. If you're out there, give me a shout if you are. Today I want to talk a little bit about compassion. Compassion is, sympathy, really. I mean, we they're kind of synonymous, sympathy and compassion. For others who may be less fortunate or who are suffering or going through misfortune, we feel some compassion towards them, right? When we donate to charity, it's out of compassion that we're doing that. When we support charitable causes, when we see other people suffering in the world, and our heart feels for them, right? That's empathy and compassion. So I want to talk about compassion as showing kindness and caring and willingness to help others is key to compassion. But what about compassion for ourselves, right? For our own self? Do we really have compassion for ourselves? Oftentimes we tend to ignore or avoid giving ourselves compassion, and one of the things that really, I mean, it's a lot like love. Okay, compassion is boundless. It's infinite. It's timeless, and in many ways it's if you build your muscle, you can make it effortless. Because we're often feeling compassion towards other individuals a lot of the time when we're just watching the news, or we're thinking about others, or just bringing in the emotions around other people's feelings. That is partially part of your compassion. It's a very positive thing, like gratitude, like love, like like joy, like happiness. Compassion is a very positive thing. It makes us as human beings feel better when we have compassion for others. I think one of the problems that we have is that we just don't tend to give ourselves enough compassion, right? Do we forgive ourselves for all of the mistakes that we've made, for the people that we've hurt, including ourselves, right? Having a degree of compassion for yourself is so critical, especially in times like now when we're suffering from a lot of uncertainty, and we're afflicted with anxiety and fear, and it's hard to kind of truly feel compassionate to yourself, when you can't express or give yourself any kindness or empathy, right? You can't empathize with yourself because you don't you can only feel what you feel. You can only sense what you're feeling, right? So really, having some degree of self-compassion, especially in times like now when we're dealing with such uncertainty and fear and anxiety, is really, really critical. So it's one of the key things for building resilience, is having some compassion for yourself, right? And again, a lot of these talks that I've been sharing, a lot of the conversations that we've been having are specifically around, resilience and building resilience, okay? I've been told by my mother-in-law that a lot of my talks have been focused and centered around the grieving widow community of which I'm part of, right? And yes, that's true because a lot of us have not built a significant degree of resilience since losing our person, right? I have worked really super hard to, build that resilience in myself, especially in this last sort of 6 to 9 months, where I've worked really hard on diving deep internally, taking the journey from here, from my brain and my head into my heart, right? This is the longest and hardest journey that we will ever take, getting out of the head and diving into the heart. And once we actually live from a more heart-centered place, which when you're in the throes of grief, when you're deep in, in the thick of it, right, in the fog of it, because of that, I hope that wasn't an interruption. A phone call came through on my phone here, and I hope it didn't interrupt my broadcast here. I do apologize if it did. Our circumstances will often dictate how we emote, how we feel about ourselves. That's a situation where we're not in control of our feelings and emotions, right? That means we're lacking the resilience that we really truly need. When we are in a place where we are building resilience, where we are having some self-compassion, having an ability to manage our emotions and our feelings, that's when we're building our emotional intelligence. That's when we're able to be more of our true self, right? Rather, we're out of our ego and we're in, to our hearts, right? And that's a lot of what I've done over these last few months is take that deep dive and build that resilience in myself. And I am far from perfect. I'm not there all the time. I struggle. I struggle with my grief. I struggle with my emotions still. But I try to do my best. Try to follow what Yoda says. Don't try, only do. I try to live from my heart, right? So, everything I do in my coaching practice, in my day-to-day life, my interactions with people, I try to lead with my heart. Because if I do, and I'm not leading with my head, then I'm not judging, and I'm not trying to predetermine an outcome. I'm letting go of the attachment to what may or may not be. All of these things stem from living from the heart. And one of the things that, really, really has helped me take that journey from my head to my heart was giving myself compassion, right? Giving my true self some compassion and, expressing to myself that it's okay to not be okay. It's okay to be okay, right? As somebody who's been experiencing some really serious grief over these last 21 months, oftentimes we lose sight of the fact that, on the days that we're feeling okay and we're not, thinking or dwelling on the grief that we've been in, or the trauma that we've been in, or the sense of whatever it may be that you're feeling, the fear or the loneliness or the or the anxiety. If you're not dwelling on that and you're feeling okay, it's okay to do that too, right? Oftentimes we lose sight of that. We think in early days of heavy grief that we have to be grieving, we have to be sad and melancholy all the time. That's not true. We don't. And as as a human being, we actually need to have the range of emotions. We need to have compassion with ourself, we need to have compassion in our society. We need to have compassion for others. And, I think a couple of weeks ago, if I remember, I might have mentioned that I wrote a blog post where I was really suffering with a really bad bout of grief. And I went off on one about the protesters who, were standing on Capitol steps in, other states, not in mine, but, open carrying guns and threatening, doing threatening behavior and all of this. And it made me really angry, and it made me really frustrated, and it made me really scared. But that was because I lacked compassion for those people at that moment, right? So when I actually opened my heart and got out of my head again, and showed compassion for those people and sympathized with their plight, with their cause, with their reasons behind their actions, I could understand, and I can get it, right? So opening my eyes and my heart to those sorts of actions, and showing some compassion for them and what they may be going through, empathizing with their plight, that really did make a difference in my thinking, and I was able to let go of that resentment and that fear and that sort of sensation of what happens if they get the COVID and pass it on to their families and their friends, and become more of a burden on the state facilities and hospitals and the medical care workers. And I just had to let that go. And of course I have compassion for the medical personnel and the care and the healthcare workers who have been really struggling, both emotionally, physically, day in and day out on the front lines of this battle, and also those that actually have been basically temporarily laid off as the hospitals have decreased their number of patients, because there has been a significant reduction in traffic accidents, in people breaking limbs, riding bicycles and things like that. There's been a significant reduction in those emergency procedures. There hasn't been a total reduction in them, but I have a huge amount of compassion for our medical personnel who have seen sort of both ends of this spectrum, and I really think that part of it has been my self-acceptance, my own compassion, my own self-compassion, giving myself the grace and the forgiveness that I know that I need to give others, right? As Gandhi said, be the change that you wish to see in the world. Well, if I don't give myself compassion, then how can I give it to other people, right? And it's a really, really difficult thing to reestablish if you haven't been very compassionate with yourself. A lot of times, I know therapists. I've had friends and other and my own therapist say it. We should be gentle with ourselves, and to me, being gentle with ourselves is also being compassionate. It's being, kind and considerate to your own true self, right? And being caring and decent and thoughtful and open to understanding what you are going through as an individual, because of course we all go through different things, and we all feel things differently, and we all see the world differently, and having a different perspective from everyone else oftentimes can make us feel confused and lost, and that in turn shuts down our compassion for ourselves, right? We oftentimes feel sorry for ourselves, right? But we don't feel compassion about that sense of feeling sorry, right? Because it is okay to feel sorry for yourself, right? So, like I said 2 weeks ago, when I had this, this really big wave of grief, wash over me, I was on the floor of my office crying, and I thought to myself, "Oh my God, why am I feeling this way?" And I was really feeling sorry for myself. Okay, so why was I feeling sorry for myself, and what did it matter, right? The thing is that I didn't get to the what did it matter part, right? I wasn't giving myself the compassion that I needed in that moment to just feel my feelings and feel that sense of not being okay in that moment. So, from that perspective, I kind of lost my compassion in that moment. So now, I'm trying to be more compassionate with myself, with those around me, giving, of my kindness and my care and my thought and my love, and just sending that energy out to the world. I know it sounds a bit woo-woo and all of that, but the reality is that, we are all energetic beings, and, there's a school of thought that says everything that has ever befallen you happens simply because it crosses your mind. Well, if I think negative thoughts, then negative things are going to happen, right? If I think positive thoughts, positive things will happen, right? For instance, we hear about manifestation and all of that sort of thing, and I firmly believe that people can manifest their happiness, right, or their material things if that's what they want. I would like to manifest more love in this world, more compassion, more care, and more kindness, right? That's what I want, right? I want to see this world be a better place after all of these restrictions are lifted. I want people to be more compassionate with each other, more understanding, more kind and empathetic with everyone else. Everyone is suffering in some ways, right? Everyone has some level of grief. Everyone has some level of trauma. I mean, even if it's only, middle school bullying trauma, right, that you experienced 25, 30, 40 years ago, whenever it might have been, right? We've all gone through something in our lives that we eventually will have come up on us, right? In a moment of questioning, of lack of self-compassion, of fear, of anxiety, right? Most everybody, and I would think that there's a very, very, very small number of human beings who don't have that happen to them, right? So, when we look for, our purpose in our lives, our passion, right? Those things that really make us glow, right? That really build our energy, that make us shine, right? As individuals, our purpose and our passion. Those are what give us our internal power, right? That's what our heart center really drives, is our purpose and our passion. And like I just said a few moments ago, mine is to deliver love and kindness and care and sympathy and empathy to the world, right? That's why I do this. That's why I share myself, right? My true self, my heart, with you who are watching, and I don't even know if anybody's watching. I really don't. And I just hope that you are, and I hope that you're there, and that you do get something from me, some of this energy that I feel. Today I watched the Radio 1 Foo Fighters Times Like These video that I shared on my Facebook page a few weeks ago. I watched it 3 times again this morning. And the second and third time, I actually I recorded the second one, and then I recorded the third one. But the third one, believe it or not, I sang the entire song with it, right, along with it, because it's one of my favorite songs of all time, and I chose to sing along with it and record it because I was in this moment where I was feeling so much love and compassion for the world that I wanted my voice, my heart to be added to that song, which I feel was, one of the most amazing gifts that came from artists in this whole period of COVID. I mean, there have been a lot of gifts to this world, from artists and poets and writers and playwrights and actors and actresses and singers and songwriters. There's been so many gifts that have been given, and not just by professionals as well, right? So, people sharing on their Facebook pages, people recording their families singing Beatles songs and things like that, right? But this was the BBC Radio 1 Live Lounge, where each of these artists sort of joined together to form one great big chorus of voices. And I added mine to it this morning, because I felt it was really powerful to put that energy out there. And, for me, that was an expression of my own heart, of my kindness and my empathy for the world, right? Whether or not that is ever, heard by anyone other than me doesn't matter. I sang my heart out, and I honestly, I'll be honest, I've never really had much compassion for myself around my singing voice. And as I listened to it, I thought, wow, actually, I'm singing in harmony. I'm singing alongside these, really world famous artists, Ellie Goulding, Dave Grohl, who wrote and sang the song, Taylor Hawkins, the drummer, all of these people who participated in this video. And I felt to myself, wow, Jeff, it's an amazing feeling. It's an amazing accomplishment. Have some compassion for yourself about, your ability and your voice, that your voice is being heard. And that's really what prompted me to talk about this today, because there is something that we do go through as human beings, and that's the opposite of being compassionate, and that's dispassionate, but also what we call compassion fatigue, right? We get so overwhelmed by the number of causes, by the number of people out there who are suffering, and it almost makes us feel like we have to cut ourselves off and stop feeling compassion for those people, especially. But when we do that, we cut it off for ourselves too, right? Because the thing about compassion is that if you don't have it for others, it's very difficult to have it for yourself too, right? It is possible. You could, still have compassion for yourself, but it's very difficult to have it without being compassionate with other people and their causes and their, their issues and things like that. So, from that perspective, I think, if we reach a point where we're feeling a bit fatigued by what's going on outside in the rest of the world, just give yourself some compassion around that. Just understand that it's okay to feel whatever it is that you're feeling, and just put your hand on your heart, or in a prayer position, or whatever you need to do for yourself, and just say it's okay to feel how I'm feeling, right? And that is having compassion for yourself, right? That's just a simple way of expressing compassion for yourself, is just to say it's okay, right? Just whatever I'm feeling is okay in this moment. And oftentimes, when we're feeling anger or frustration or anxiety or fear, we fail to recognize that, and we fail to give ourselves the compassion that we need in that moment. There's this old adage that if you're angry, count to 10, right? Before you burst out or explode in a rage, right? And it takes practice. It does. And what you're really doing in that moment is you're focusing and you're centering and you're becoming more present. And you're also becoming more aware and more compassionate with yourself for feeling the way that you are, right? If you can do that as an individual, if you can build that muscle, build that compassion for yourself first and foremost, then you can quite easily express that compassion or feel that compassion for others and for, the world, right? Even people that you disagree with, and even people that you feel may not deserve your compassion, right? That is a judgment, and I like to think that we're better off not judging others around whether they're deserving or not. And I've often said that deserve is a very loaded word, but there are certain emotions and there are certain feelings and there are certain thoughts and sensations that we as human beings deserve, right? We deserve compassion for ourselves. We deserve love for ourselves. We deserve to be joyful in many ways, okay? In ways that are hopefully not detrimental. Oftentimes we mistake sort of addictive behaviors, drugs, sex, self-harm, all of these things as joyful, right? Because they bring us temporary either measures of escape, of distraction, or they actually, give us a sensation of weightlessness, of not having to be concerned about anything, right? I guess when we're high, we're happy, right? But when we come crashing down after the high, we actually go into self-loathing and we lack compassion for ourselves. So there's a fine line between doing things that are good for you, and again that's judgmental and subjective, but things that are harmful to your health and your body and your mental health, those are things that really do lack love and compassion and kindness for your true self, right? And it's really a matter of really digging deep and getting in touch with the true self that will ultimately help you. Obviously medication, rehabilitation, rehab centers, etc. are always an option and should be pursued. Medical advice. I'm not a doctor, I'm not a psychologist, I'm not a psychiatrist. I'm a coach, and I just try to help people dig deep in to find their own inner resources that we mostly innately have, that unfortunately years and layers of ego protection have stifled in many cases, and therefore we struggle to find our true self and listen to that voice of intuition and compassion and love and kindness for ourself, because oftentimes the small self, the ego, really does drive the body, and it's hard to snap out of that sometimes. But if you do show yourself compassion, if you can start to flex that muscle, you will soon learn that you can get away from the small self and find the real you deep inside, that has that care and that kindness and that compassion for yourself and for others. So I also wanted to say that I'm not sure how you pronounce his name. The today would have been Israel Kamakabu's birthday, and he sang this beautiful version of "Somewhere Over the Rainbow." And if you haven't heard it, he's the Google Doodle today for his what would have been his 61st birthday. He died when he was 38. It's a beautiful song. It was one that I played at Suzanne's memorial. It was one of our favorite songs, and I wanted to bring that up because Because Somewhere Over the Rainbow is another one of those songs that really does help when you listen to the words and you sing the words to yourself. Um, it does really help you find compassion for yourself and love and kindness for yourself. So if you haven't heard it, just look up Iz Somewhere Over the Rainbow on Google, and he's their Google Doodle today. So if you get the chance to check it out, it's a pretty amazing version if you've never heard it before. But that's me done for today. I hope to be back tomorrow, but I do have a 1 o'clock coaching session, so I may want to skip it in order to prep for that. If I do, I will put a note out on Facebook before and let you know. Otherwise, I will see you tomorrow, and if not, then I will definitely see you on Friday. So have a great rest of your hump day. Thank you for joining me today, and I really appreciate you all being here. Look forward to seeing you again soon. All right, take care, everybody. Have a great rest of your day.